So hello everyone and welcome to yet another Skype interview, and I think I have to say I'm unfeasibly excited about this one. We've had some great guests so far, but personally I'm looking forward to speaking to the gentleman that you can see with me right now. This is Greg Koch, who's the co-founder and CEO, I believe, Greg, of Stone Brewing Company out there in San Diego, in sunny, I presume, California. Thanks for joining us.
A little cloudy today, but yeah, glad to be here. This indeed. This must be tremendously exciting for you and for all of your viewers.
It absolutely is. I'm quivering in anticipation. Now, for people that don't know Stone, and if you don't know them, I don't know where you've been. People may know, of course, about the iconic brands, the Stone brands that have come out, which are fairly familiar to craft brew lovers right now. Arrogant Bastard, Levitation Ale, Ruination IPA, all sort of almost household craft names. But they weren't always that way. And I'd like to ask you, Greg, you know, when you started out, well, first of all, let's go right back to the beginning. How did you get into beer, and how did that evolve from, I presume, a hobby into running one of the most successful US craft brewers of all time? Did I build it up nicely?
Yeah, that's quite a setup.
Okay.
So I've got about 27 years to cover there. I'll dive in.
Yeah. I think YouTube gives us about 10 minutes, but let's have a go.
Perfect. So I discovered Anchor Steam in 1987, and I credit that beer with really being the beginning of the light bulb over the head moment of learning, wow, beer can actually be like that. I was intrigued, I was fascinated, and I was, quite frankly, delighted to discover that beer wasn't merely the fizzy yellow nonsense that we're told by the television that it is. So I was simultaneously elated and excited, while also being, frankly, pissed off. You know, and why? How could I have been pissed off about such a glorious moment? Well, it's because I then felt like all my previous beer drinking years had been stolen from me at the hands of these mass marketeers telling me that that fizzy yellow nonsense was beer. And now I discovered what it really was. And I think, like a lot of people, I don't like being lied to. No. And I think that frankly, you know, the commodity corporations, what they do isn't much short of that. You know, whether it's cheese or bread or coffee. I mean, you know, and coffee doesn't come vacuum packed, dry, you know, freeze dried, sealed in a can. No. Et cetera, et cetera. So, I'm a bit of an enthusiast, a geek by my nature. So in the late 80s, it wasn't so early to have an accelerated beer journey like we can today. I mean, hey, it's just no better time in the history of the world to be a beer enthusiast. So mine was many years long. But as I continued to go down this beer journey, I just became so fascinated with the integrity, the quality, the character, the creativity of the small brewers, and I wanted to be a part of it. So I was at a little class at UC Davis up in the northern part of California, well known for their brewing studies, and I took this class called A Sensory Evaluation of Beer. Okay. It was during that class that I saw this guy that I'd actually met through a common friend once before, years earlier in the music industry, and during the break I went up to him and I said, "Aren't you Steve?" Or actually he came up to me and said, "Aren't you Greg?" And our conversation started about beer. Yeah. And that was in the early 90s. We then homebrewed together. Steve was a very accomplished homebrewer. I was newer to the homebrewing curve, so that meant that I was the guy doing the sanitizing and you know, cleaning the bottles and all that.
Yeah, I know the deal.
Yeah. And eventually in 1995, we just said, okay, we're definitely going to do this. And we started looking for a location here in the north part of San Diego County. And in 1996, we opened and sold our first keg. Okay. So you're famous, the brewery itself is famous for, or the philosophy of Stone, if I'm right, is to brew big beers. That's right, isn't it? Big beers in terms of impact, flavour, alcohol. Beers that you like to brew. Is that fair to say? Well, that's true, and I think that you know, it's we only brew beers that we like to brew is a very common phrase thrown around. Yeah. Sometimes it's very believable, and sometimes like, really,
Yeah.
But I remember my early curve of beer enthusiasm. By the time we opened Stone, I'd been to maybe about 120 breweries, which at that time was a substantial number.
Yeah.
Even today, that's nothing to shake a stick at.
No.
And I would so often talk with the brewer and say in a small brewery, and they would say with the first 3 or 4 beers of the lineup, "Oh, don't bother with those. The golden or the American style Hefeweizen or whatever." Yeah. And we just brew those because we have to.
Okay.
And every time I thought to myself, "Have to because of why? Why do you have to?" I'd already rejected this idea of the fizzy yellow beer and the commoditized version, and this seemed like it was sort of blending, trying to bridge the gap between commodity and true artisanal, the true stuff that we really, if you're an enthusiast, if you're a brewer, that you really gravitate towards. And I thought, why split the difference? It doesn't make sense. In fact, as a consumer, I don't want the producer of the things I'm going to enjoy to split the difference. I want them to go for it.
Yeah.
And if they go for it and I don't like it, well, then fair enough, I'm not their customer. And if they go for it and I love it, well, that's a better chance for me to really be passionate about it.
Yeah.
So that's how we approached it. We said, look, we're going to, if you want people to care about what you do, you have to do things that are worth caring about.
Did that attitude come over as, because you're kind of sort of famously unapologetic about your beers in that respect? I mean, did that, and I use the word arrogance because I know you use it a lot in actually name a beer after it, but is that arrogance, if you want to call it that, how was that initially received in the US?
Well, it comes from a position of respect. I'm going to respect the beer-loving consumer. And if you're not a beer-loving consumer, or you like the fizzy yellow stuff, why should I do anything for you? You're gone. You have to save yourself. I can't save you. So, and if I have any chance of being a positive influence, then I'm going to do something great, and I'm going to do something that compels you over into the great side of the equation. The arrogance thing it's way overblown. We have one beer called Arrogant Bastard Ale. Well, okay, so we have Oaked Arrogant Bastard Ale now, and we have Double Bastard Ale. But that's a single element, and I've used the phrase that I'm angry about beer, so you don't have to be. Yeah. People don't have to share my attitudes. No. These are mine, but this is what's helped us go in the direction that I have. So you don't have to be angry about it. You can just sit back and enjoy it.
Cool. Listen, in Sweden right now, the craft beer movement is pretty young. And we're looking across the water a lot at you guys, actually, for inspiration. In fact, I've got here, because I've been sort of sneakily having a beer just on the side, out of camera shot, but this is a classic example, actually. Mick Giller here, they've got their Green Easter beer, IPA, which is a West Coast IPA style of beer. Very popular, everyone's drinking, massively hoppy, sort of West Coast US-inspired beers. Can you define what you think craft beer is? I'm not really talking in terms of barrelage or that, but really the kind of the energy and the character of craft beer. And why you think the craft beer movement has been so successful in the US in capturing the imagination of drinkers and its kind of share of throat over there.
I believe that inherently people have good taste. Yeah. So if you don't try and sell them out, eventually they will gravitate towards what you do, if what you do truly is great. And of course, that's up to everybody to decide for themselves what they think great is. Yeah. And let's take a look at the West Coast IPA style. Hey, for those of this that love that style, I mean, come on, this is just a beautiful thing. It's a wonderful, it's aromatic, it's flavorful, it's got refreshing, and that bitterness character just makes you want to have another sip. It's just such a beautiful experience. Yeah. When done right, and so I think that if you don't pander to the dumbed down notion, and instead just say we're going to do our very best to create something again that's worth being enthusiastic about, I think that's a good business model, and it's respecting the public.
Okay.
So I think that's how craft brewing has... Oh, you asked what is craft brewing. So what is craft brewing? I think craft brewing, to me, the heart and soul of it is the willingness to follow your own muse as a brewer. The willingness to do what you want to do and hopefully do it really well. And then people who like that are going to like what you do. And it's okay for people not to like your beer. And that's a key point. And that's one thing that I started up the very beginning in 1996. When people would curl their nose, I would say, I wouldn't look at them and say, you have no taste, you just don't know what good beer is. I would never say any of that. I would say, it's perfectly acceptable not to like our beer.
Yeah.
We don't make our beer for everybody. Cool. In fact, the fact that I will always know that we're doing a good job if the majority of people don't like what we do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because all of the best, most creative, most interesting things in the world, as any geek or enthusiast knows, isn't the lowest common denominator version. It's the one that there's some barrier to entry because you have to, the key phrase, acquired palate, acquired taste.
Exactly.
There's a reason for that phrase.
Exactly. Listen, turning a little bit closer to home, I've been following, and I think a lot of the beer community here in Europe has been following very closely this story, and on your blog and through the press that you guys are planning to open a European brewery here. I think it's down to the wire now, isn't it? We got is it Belgium or Berlin, Belgium or Germany?
Yes.
And that something's going to happen in the next year or two. Can you tell me a little bit, obviously, can you update BeerSweden as to exactly where you are with the European brewery project?
Well,
yeah.
That's a great question.
Thank you.
And, so I want to tell you that either I'm withholding information or I don't know yet.
Yes.
And
okay.
the truth is, it's the second one.
Okay.
So we are actively working on this. Yeah. Yes, we have identified after visiting 75 locations in 9 countries, we have narrowed it down to 2.
Okay.
And I have to do this European style 2.
Yeah, 2.
And, We are actively negotiating and doing due diligence to determine our final location, but it is possible that neither of those 2 will end up being, it's real estate there's just so many complications. I'm going to be jumping over the pond in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
To work further on this. We actually have somebody that's in Europe right now that's working full time on this project to nail down the location. Okay. And I'm anxious to start and actually building the brewery and building, everything around it.
What's the sort of motivation behind it? How did this idea come about? Why do you want to be the first U.S. craft brewery with a presence in the old world?
Well, I'm a Europhile.
Okay.
I love travel.
I knew you were a man of taste, Greg. I knew you were a man of taste.
Well, I don't think I need to. It's no secret that the depth of culture and the diversity of the culture is fantastic. I've been all over the United States, and I love each city and each different culture and the local characteristics, etc. And Europe offers even more diversity. So I naturally gravitate towards it. I like a lot of diversity in my life.
Yeah.
I gravitate towards things that are different and unique and special. And so Europe is probably, I would identify it as a 20% strategic and about 80% passion play. Just we want to. Steve, my partner, and I were anxious to sort of go and roll up our sleeves again and get dirty and put our hands in it and build this thing. We're going to start off relatively small. One thing I've seen reported and I've seen comments. Stone is just thinks they're so this and that and they're going to come and dominate. No. We want to come and be a part of the craft and specialty brewing community in Europe. We're planning on bringing our style, our personality. We're not going to try and be sort of European personality. We know who we are.
Yeah.
And I think that in some ways what we do is not just European or American, but universal in that follow your passion, follow your dream, do what you want to do. You know, just be honest and straightforward with your tastes and your approach. And it's a very, I don't know if you can tell, but I feel animated. You know, I'm very excited about this.
We're very animated to get you over here, because I presume what it will mean is that, you know, I know that for you, you know, freshness, quality is everything, and you know, that really is, you're setting the bar exceptionally high in anything you do, and obviously the beers with the distance is an issue. So having a brewery over here will mean that you'll open up a whole new, or people will be able to taste stone beers in a different way.
And is a very key component, if anybody has been over to our place in Escondido, which is San Diego County, they know that we have 32 beers on draft, the majority of which, usually about 2/3, are guest beers, only specialty beers, no commodity, of course.
Okay.
We have a 130 bottle list, and maybe 1 or 2 are stone on that list, all specialty, great craft beers. And we want to do the same thing in Europe. We love celebrating the world of specialty and artisanal beer. I think that if, I don't know, it'll be Germany. It could be Belgium, of course, or even could be another spot that we haven't seen yet. But if it's Germany, I would bet within 1 year we'll have one of the very best selections of German specialty and artisanal beer in the entire country. Because you know what Germany is like. You know, sometimes they're very provincial. Yeah. And we drink the beer from this town, not the beer from that town over there that's only 30 kilometers or something. Yeah, it's so true. And I'm not provincial. I'm only provincial to the art and the passion of small and specialty brewers. Yeah. So, you know, perhaps we have a little bit of new world thinking from that perspective. I don't know. I think this is maybe thinking that's more common to a less traditional, you know, traditional focused person. Okay.
Listen, is there, and by the way, I'd just like to say that if you haven't discounted Sweden from the list, and I presume you have, because if you see the amount of tax we pay over here, that'll probably kill the deal in the water. But if you haven't, I'll just put a little hand up for Sweden. You know, don't give up on us. Is there
I love Sweden. I've traveled the country, and it's spectacular.
Beautiful country.
Love it.
Is there one European style of beer that you would really like to brew that you haven't brewed yet?
I would have to say there's probably dozens and dozens. Yeah. But I probably would be I would gravitate more towards some of the, you know, being inspired by some of the newer things that are being done. I'm going to be in Piozzo, where Balladen, the brewery Balladen, is in northern Italy in a couple of weeks for a barrel aging seminar. We're actually doing a co-op or a collaborative beer with them. Yeah. That's brand new news. I don't know that that's been announced before. No, great. So I'm looking very forward to this barrel aging seminar in, you know, northern Italy, wine country in Piedmont, and brewers from Belgium and all over Italy and others are going to be there. And I know I'm going to learn kind of some new things and new ideas, and like, wow, I hadn't thought of that. And I look forward to that inspiration. We've brought some inspiration to the world with our beers, and we have gained even so much more. Yeah,
fantastic. Now, just to sort of finally, to sort of round up, we've had a look back at what's happened to you guys and what you've done with craft beer. Where do you see craft beer in the next 5 years? I know that it's grown considerably and market share has increased, albeit still small. It's a significant shift upwards. Where do you see craft beer, let's say, in 5 years' time?
Boy, I used to think that I knew the answer to that question. And now I'm pretty certain that I don't know the answer to that question. Things are changing at an increasing rate, which is very exciting. You know, at the Craft Brewers Conference, we learned, you know, just how fast things are accelerating for the category. And, you know, we'll pass from a year ago, there were 1,600 breweries in the United States. Today, there are nearly 1,800, and what's anticipated within a year, there'll be over 2,000. I mean, it's just, you know, it's going like this. Yeah. You know, things are becoming more and more regionalized. We're here in Southern California, arguably a fairly mature territory for craft beer, and certainly for Stone, because we've been here for 15 years.
Yeah.
But our growth curve so far in the first part of this year in Southern California alone is about nearly 40%.
Really? Right.
Wow.
So it's good times ahead, basically, what you're saying. If you're true to the craft sort of message, then it's looking pretty rosy in the garden.
I think it does look pretty good for Stone. I've always been very positive about our future and what we do. It's unquestionably positive for the beer enthusiast. I mean, right now, you have such an incredible selection of great beers here in the U.S., Southern California in particular, I might say. And that's only looking to get substantially better. And quality that your average brew pub or small brewery 15 years ago when we opened up, I don't want to say where the average quality level would have been, but I can tell you that today it's moved up. Yeah. The average quality of just, I'll try that. I've never heard of that. I'll pick up a 6-pack, I'll have a pint, and your chances of having something that are somewhere between really good to excellent to outstanding are very high. You know, I think Stone, we got an early reputation because we're one of the fewer numbers that we're doing things that are really, really, I think, you know, on the upper end of that scale that I just said. And frankly, lots and lots and lots of breweries. There were many back then, too. I mean, I was a huge beer enthusiast, and I would have given you a laundry list of all these beers I thought were wonderful. Yeah. But today, it went from, you know, that to I got to go off the screen. You know?
Yeah. Well, I think on that really positive note, because it is positive actually, I'm going to say thanks very much, Greg, for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's customary for me to actually have a beer in my hand, which I do. I see that you've got some water there. It's pretty early for you guys, isn't it?
So, my Stone glass, so.
But I'm going to say anyway, cheers and beers, Greg. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, sir. Great to be here. I look forward to seeing everybody out in Sweden next time I can get out there.
Fantastic. Well, when you know you're coming, let us know. We'll be delighted to come along and have a drink with you.
Unquestionably, I'll actually be at Brewdog in Edinburgh.
Yes.
Which I know is not too far away. It's just a quick flight.
It's just a quick hop across the North Sea.
May 11th.
May the 11th.
And we have 14 Stone beers on tap.
Really?
I got to be out there for a special event.
I will be booking my flight after this interview. Greg,
Terrific.
Thanks very much for your time. It's been a great pleasure. Cheers.